Hey guys, welcome back to Hippo SuperCoach, and today I'm going to be going over the biggest traps in my opinion, and these are going to be very controversial. They're very high owned, all three of these players, and I think you're going to be interested to see my take on these guys, and I'm very adamant about my position. Keep in mind that we haven't seen the second week of the practice matches yet, so my opinion could change after this week depending on role and what I see. So, but for right now, I'm pretty firm in my stance that these three people are traps, and it will take a lot for me to really sway it the other way. But first guy we're going to talk about is Nick DAICOS. So I've had DAICOS in pretty much every team, and he's very good for structure, a little bit cheaper that primo, but you know what? I actually don't trust him. And if we look last year, if we just filter by 2020, if we go to past seasons and 2022, let's have a look where we actually ranked last year, okay? If this ever wants to load. Let's have a look, alright? So we'll go filter, defender. Alright, so DAICOS, where was he? Average. So he finished 25th, okay? That's very good for a rookie. And I get people say, he's got that natural, upwards trajectory. That makes sense. I understand that. I think he's great. But you know what? I saw him in the midfield against Carlton, and I watched him very closely. He was very average. I don't think he got much of the ball at all, and he looked terrible in the midfield. I think the bodies are still too big for him. He's just so small. He's obviously put on a little bit of size, no doubt, but he's still very small, and he just could not hang with the Carlton mids. And I don't think that Carlton midfield is by any stretch of imagination a good midfield. No Sam Walsh. Obviously Cripps is a bull. Kennedy's pretty strong, but DAICOS just couldn't get his hands on it. And I think if he plays halfback, he's definitely a better option than what he would be in the midfield. So I really think it's got some Jack Crisp about this, and he's got to jump a lot to be a top 6. So he averaged a 91 last year. Great, I know it's his rookie year, but he's got to average 105 to be a top 6 if we're going off last year. Okay, so I really don't think he can get there, and I think he'll be someone you have all year. Obviously, you're picking him to be a top 6. I just don't know if he can quite reach that. And he looked great against the mids in the intra club, but against another team, he just did not look anywhere near as good. But like I said, that halfback role, it's great for him. And Darcy Moore's getting kick-ins. Would they give it to DAICOS if he's down there? I actually don't think so, to be honest. So he's going to have to score purely without kick-ins, and probably with hoping he doesn't get too many CBAs and just staying on the back line. But he does work for cheap possessions, no doubt. But for now, I just think he's a trap. I just don't think he quite has the amount of scoring avenues as these top 6 guys who all pretty much get kick-ins or play more midfield like Doherty. And Doherty does get some kick-ins as well. But like Dawson, Sicily, Stewart, in my opinion, are just way above them. And I know you're paying extra, but I think it's worth it, because when it comes down to it, you're going to have them over someone like Nick DAICOS when it comes to round 23. Maybe not, but when like I said, you pick DAICOS, you're going to have him at the end of the year, provided no injuries. And I don't want him at the end of the year. So that's my take on him. Now let's talk about Connor Rosie. So in my opinion, he is maybe the biggest trap. And I'm going to go over why. And most of this reason is actually Jason Horne-Francis. So they gave him 70% CBAs in the practice match. And I know people probably sitting there going, you know what? They're just trialing Horne-Francis. He's not going to play all that mid-time. But fair enough, alright? Let's say, for example, Rosie holds his position and he averages, the 103, I think, in the second half of last year. Or after round 5. That's great. But I think Horne-Francis is going to affect him. Okay? Now think about how many mids they have. They have Boak, Wines, Drew, Rosie, and Butters didn't even play. Okay? So I think Rosie had about 50% CBAs without Butters playing. So that's obviously going to drop a little bit when Butters comes back. So I don't actually think that Rosie is this so-called lock that everyone thinks he is. Yes, he's a beast. He's got X Factor. He's got all the X Factor in the world. He's a great goal kicker. He's a very good player, but I just don't know if the role's there like people think it is. And I'm more than happy to wait and see with him and see how this Port team work, because in the past we have been absolutely burnt to a crisp by Ken Hinkley. I remember back in the day with bloody Justin Westhoff, Ken Hinkley throwing him forward. He'd play ruck one week and score 120 and go forward the next and score 30. So we know Ken Hinkley cannot be trusted. And it sort of segues into my next player, which is Jack Macrae. So someone I was very, very hot on, and I think was in my actual last team update. But since I've had more information, I've really changed the team and how it looks. So I'll actually show you guys the team as well at the end of the video if you really want to see. So you got to stay tuned. But Jack Macrae, I just think he's, and it's not him, it's Luke Beveridge that makes me think he's a trap. I just can't trust Luke Beveridge. Like, we're hearing things like Bailey Smith and Caleb Daniel are going to be playing midfield. They're only going for CBAs, okay? They're not playing wing, they're getting midfield time. All right, let's say that is true. All right, so we've got Smith and Daniel. Who else do we have? Riley West sometimes played mid, I swear. So that's 3 people. We've got Libba, he's only going to play mid, 4. We've got Trelaw, who apparently is not going to play half back anymore. He's going to play mid, that's 5. And obviously Bont and Macrae 6 and 7. So would I like a number 6 or 7 to be in my team for 634k? Not a chance. And I think Macrae can score in different ways, but I just think like I would much rather start someone else and wait and see how that Bulldogs midfield works out. Macrae gets 80% CB, or 60+% CBAs in the practice match, then I'll think, all right, maybe we can trust him. Maybe they were just experimenting with Daniel and Trelaw and Bailey Smith. They're going to play wing and defense or whatever. But for now, like, why would you start Macrae when the role is so uncertain and there are so many good midfield options like your Parishes? Lockie Neal is another one. I really, really don't understand why people aren't picking him. So that's my verdict on Macrae. Like I said, I just need to see some clarity because we know Bevo doesn't really respect Macrae. He played him on the bench at the start of most of the games last year. Like, that is unbelievably disrespectful to not just a SuperCoach pig, but just such a good player. Like, people think he's not damaging. He very rarely misses targets. He tackles. Like, he's easily one of the best players in the comp, and they clearly don't recognise that at the Bulldogs. It's really tragic, to be honest. But that's where I stand. And like I said, I love the guy. Like, I love the way he plays. He's an absolute pig when it comes to SuperCoach, but I don't trust Luke Beveridge, and we know he is very, very untrustworthy, and we've seen that in the past. So let's have a look at my team, and you're probably gonna laugh, but I'm really, really happy with it, and I'll explain it all to you. So we've got Sicily and Dawson D1, D2, and I'm pretty much set on this. I think the logic with Sicily is ball's going to be down there quite a bit. I don't think anyone else will get kick-ins. They love to use him to exit D50, so I think Sicily can actually up his average. I think he can go to that 118 mark. Like I said, I think Hawthorn are just going to get pumped a lot of games this year, so the ball's going to be flattered in that back line. And I compare it to someone like a Tom Stewart, who is in the premiership team, versus Hawthorn, who's probably going to be bottom 4 side. And obviously Sicily is going to get more opportunity to stat pad in a back line where the ball's down there more than Stewart would. And I remember plenty of games last year where Stewart would go like a quarter without even, teams might get like 2 inside 50s for the whole quarter, and Stewart doesn't touch the ball. He doesn't score that quarter. So Stewart's a great option still, no doubt. Great role, loves to intercept, but I just think I'd much rather Sicily over Stewart. And then Jordan Dawson, similar boat as Sicily, so I don't think Adelaide are going to be that much better. He'll get plenty of the ball. They look for him. He gets pretty much all the kick-ins, which is fair enough. He's a very, very good kick, and actually possibly underpriced for considering I think in the first few rounds he actually wasn't playing that pure backline role that he was supposed to be playing with, or what we thought he'd be playing in the preseason. He was playing a bit everywhere, so I think now they know he's a defender. He's locked in that backline, and the thing I like about these two as well, they've just been appointed captains, I think both of them, so some extra responsibility, and I think these guys are definitely capable of carrying that weight on their shoulders. I think they're beasts, and I don't think they're tag targets. Dawson, I think, got tagged maybe once by Port, I think it was, so he might, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. And Ali Yo, everyone has to have him. Gimby, I know we didn't play, but we wait and see with him. Wilmot and Constable, so hopefully Constable plays. And then Whittle and Cowan on the bench. So when it comes to the midfield, what I saw in the practice match was Oliver was just too good. And it makes me want to start Petrarca because the Gawn and Grundy combo is simply too good to pass up on. Obviously, they only had the one Rowan Marshall rucking against Gawn and Grundy, I think, from memory. But Gawn and Grundy, like, it's just going to be too overpowered. They both get as much rest as they need. They don't have to ruck all day. It's almost guaranteed hit out to advantage to Melbourne. They're going to get first hands on it. So Petrarca is definitely one to keep an eye on this week. If he gets good CBAs, he's going to have to be coming into contention for my team because he could average 140, that guy. He has a full-time mid-roll. And Lockie Neal. So the thing with Neal is, and we'll get into it a little bit. So let's have a look how he starts. So 2022, we know he starts hot, but let's just have a look. So 2022, 140, 198, 105, 128, 117, 108, 187, 123, 115, 100, 164. And then he started getting tagged basically every second week. I have a gut feeling that he doesn't get tagged at all this year. I think teams that are going to line up against Brisbane are just going to... There's just too many midfield threats now. How can you stop... Ashcroft's supposed to be this prodigy. Dunkley's obviously a top, probably 10 mid in the whole competition. And Lockie Neal's there. So, why would you tag Neal when you still have to stop Dunkley? You still have to stop Ashcroft. You still have to stop McCluggage. I just don't think they should tag. I don't think they'll tag Neal. I could be wrong. He could get tagged every week, but I don't think Neal will get tagged. And you guys probably wondering, why do I talk up Cripps and why is he not in my team? So I think with Cripps, especially early, no Walsh means that he might cop a tag every week. Obviously the whole Brownlow reputation thing usually means players get tagged the next season. So yeah, I think a bit of a red flag, and he doesn't really have much support early with no Walsh. So it's pretty much just him in the midfield. I just think Cripps is a wait and see. But then again, he could start off very, very hot. But you're going to pick him for someone you have all year. But yeah, I think with Neal, I'm so surprised he's only in 15% of teams, because the dude's obviously capable. And you don't pick him at the start, could burn you. If he pumps out some 190s and your opponent's got him captain or vice captain, that's a GG. So Darcy Parish over Patrick Cripps. Very confident in Parish. Now he does have the McGuinness tag round 1, which is something to be concerned about. But I'm hoping he goes to Merritt. He might switch at halftime if Parish starts taking over. But you know what? I'm more than happy to cop a poor score round 1 if it means that Parish is in my team for the whole year, because his average is a little bit underdone as well. I had an injury game where he scored 50. So yeah, very, very good value, and he looked unreal in the practice match. Jack Steele looked very good in the practice match as well. Trimmed down, so hopefully a little bit quicker. I think he was pretty sluggish last year, but I think he can get back to 120s. In worst case, he averages 115 or whatever he did again. Tom Green, so obviously everyone knows he had 50 touches in Interclub. It's not that impressive considering he's playing against mids that none of us have probably even heard of, but the dude should break out. The role's clearly there. The CBAs are clearly there. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to average in the 110s. Probably can expect a 110 to 115, but would surprise me if he went 115 plus either, because it's going to be a lot of contested possessions. It's going to be like a Patrick Cripps, and I don't think he'll get tagged either. I think he's one of those players that just can't really get tagged. Too inside to be tagged. And yeah, 50 touches, I mean, he's clearly a stat pad to get that many. You don't do that by accident. So now it gets a bit interesting. So Hopper's a lock, and Dom Sheed. So I think Dom Sheed had 80% CBAs or 75 or something like that. That role is simply too good to not have, and I think I heard him talking on the broadcast, they want to play Kelly and Gaffmore forward. So Kelly and Gaffmore forward pretty much leaves the mid wide open for Sheed. I don't see Sheed not averaging 90. Obviously, he was pretty poor in the game. He got 18 touches, looked pretty average, but you got to remember, it's like his first game of a year or something, so give him a bit of benefit of the doubt, and he's obviously not a keeper. But I think you can really get to 500, and we can ship him and Hopper off round 6 or something, or round 5 for a Laird who might have dropped 50k. Okay, so I think it's definitely worth it for the cash gen. And then Ashcroft. So reason I've gone a bit deeper in the mid is because I think Will Phillips isn't a trap, but I think he could pump out some really low scores. So obviously getting hyped up quite a bit, had good role in the practice match, but the thing that people need to be aware of is that Cunnington and Simpkin didn't play. 2 of their primary CBA attendees or CB attendees. So yeah, I would be a little bit cautious with fielding Will Phillips, because he's 158k. I think he's scoring, he showed glimpses, and obviously he's high draft pick and whatnot, but I think he really might just get pushed out a bit when those 2 boys come back. But this week will tell us a lot. Chesser and Drury, so just placeholders for now. We'll see what happens when it comes to round 1. So Rowan Marshall obviously looked really good, and then Radigalia R2. So R2 Galea. Now I think this isn't as risky as people might think. and that's because we have this McAndrew guy who should play until about halfway through the season. We're hoping, unless he's so bad that he gets dropped and they just run Laddams as pure ruck. But I think he could at least be a backup ruck. I reckon he could be their ruck one. Laddams is apparently battling something like a sickness or something. Probably will play round 1, but I'm hoping they play him forward and they run this McAndrew guy in the ruck. That'd be like absolute goals, and we can field McAndrew. But basically, my point of the McAndrew-Ratugolea combination is, as long as you have this Madden guy, you can actually just loop them through. And I think GWS have a lot of Sunday games, so yeah, just sussing out who scores better out of those two early on, and probably going to be Ratugolea because he's got that intercepting role, and he apparently was really good at intercepting over the last few games of the Rezzies last year. Obviously, it is Rezzies, but take it with a grain of salt. But I think he can do it. He's got a good set of hands, so no reason he couldn't do that in the AFL. Hoping you could average anywhere above 70, I guess. I guess a 70 would be a win. To have a 70 every week on field from Ratugolea, that's probably not as bad as what we might think. So about 30 points or 40 points less than a Wits, but you're saving 600k and getting a vice captain option in Lockie Neal and a captain option. So I think it's definitely worth it. But yeah, just frees up so much structure when you don't have Wits. And Wits can't even be really trusted. He's the only one that I would trust if I wasn't fielding. And I know in my last team update I was on Darcy, but I heard the coach come out and say that the ruck split could change week to week. And that's a massive red flag. I think anyone who hears that should probably get rid of Darcy, just because, yeah, that's not a good sign at all. So if they're playing a maybe more agile ruck or something, they might run Jackson in there. So yeah, don't like that Darcy role at all now. Anyway, moving on to the forward lines, nothing's really changed here. Dunkley, Cogs, Taranto will not leave my team. And I've got Jack Zeeble because I think he's got the role. Now, another player from North I'm actually contemplating is Ben Cunnington. So he averaged 105 in the last season he played, and I think it was 2021 or 2020, one of the two. Obviously, he didn't play at all last year, but he has the CBAs. I think he got 50% in the intra-club. I don't see him playing anywhere else but the mid. He's obviously a contested beast. If he could even average 95, I think that'd be good enough early on. But I think we'd probably expect a 100 average from a full-time mid Ben Cunnington. I think we could expect a 100 average, which will be guaranteed top 6. So, not guaranteed top 6. So yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch this week. And he could take Zeebel's spot in my team, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I have to do a little bit of reshuffling to find the cash, but definitely keep an eye on Ben Cunnington. I haven't seen anyone talk about him. I get it, he's coming off cancer, but look what Sam Doherty did coming off it. So obviously, different players, different bodies and whatnot. But yeah, I think we have to consider Ben Cunnington, and you'd be delusional not to. Obviously, he's older, but yeah, definitely in consideration. And the other one that I'm contemplating is Errol Goulden. So if he can bump his CBAs up by maybe 20%, I think he can definitely go in the 100 average. But he's one I'm willing to wait and see on. And if I have to pay an extra 100k to get him, I'm happy with that. I've waited and I haven't been trapped if horse, because he's another one. He's another one that can absolutely burn you, and most of the coaches can. That's kind of why I've picked Tom Green and Cogs, because I really think this GWS coach kind of knows what he's doing. I think the Himmelberg decision's a little bit stupid. He should be playing backline, but we're getting off topic. But yeah, Errol Goulden, if he gets the mid-time that he got in the practice match, he's probably a lock to average 100. The only thing is Mills had 16%, I think, CBAs, and I just don't see that happening when when the actual stuff starts. I don't see Mills having a 16% CBA. So very, very strange scenes at Sydney, and I wish teams wouldn't trial things, because it really does just put you off. And people say, oh, it's just preseason, don't worry about it. But you know what? These teams are basically running full teams in their practice matches. They're not just playing just to jog around, okay? So I was watching some of the games. They were tackling very intensely. So yeah, I don't think you should be completely basing everything off the preseason, but definitely more than in past years. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the team update. I hope you enjoyed my 3 traps. Like I said, they could change. Like, I could have all 3 of those, DAICOS, Rosie, and McRae this year, after this week. But for now, my stance is pretty firm, and I think they're safe. They're all safe not to start with. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.